Good morning, MBA fans and friends. Nicole Wilson, Vice President of Economic Development with the Midland Business Alliance, back for another edition of our Investor Spotlight. I'm so lucky and pleased to have with me this morning Mike Williams, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your title is Midland Market President for Isabella Bank.
That's right, Midland Market President.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with me today. I appreciate it. I know that's just one title you hold, certainly a few others that I'm aware of. Dad, incoming chair, and certainly volunteer extraordinaire. So thank you for all the time and commitment you put into our community and your work in many volunteer organizations.
Well, thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'd like to start with, what is your why? So why Midland? Why Isabella Bank? Why do you do what you do?
So why Midland? My wife and I moved here in 2022, and it was mainly because of work. There was a job opportunity open at the time I worked for Comerica Bank, and it was a good transition to graduate into a commercial lending role.
Okay.
And so I had been with them at that time for about 8 years, and it was a good transition. So we moved to Midland. I had a college roommate that was from Midland, so very familiar with Midland. And I knew that it was a place that I had wanted to be because I had been here before visiting my friends. And so we moved here. My wife ended up getting a job with the hospital. There wasn't a job readily available in Midland, so she commuted to Clare for a while, and then finally was able to get transferred to Midland when there was the right opportunity came up. So why Isabella Bank? So I've been a banker my entire career, and after working for Comerica, I had the opportunity to move to Chemical Bank. And that's when I realized that I am a community banker. And I realized that there's a difference between banking and community banking. And I really loved working for Chemical Bank, the people that were there, the customers that were there. But it really allowed me to figure out that community banking is where I belong. And so as life goes on, things change. And as things changed, Chemical Bank changed. And so when that happened, it was time for me to find a new home. And Isabella Bank is the closest thing to me that Isabella Bank had as a local community bank. And I thought it was a pretty good fit because they were expanding and growing into the Midland, Saginaw communities. And it was just it was something that I could help them continue to grow and develop their already established foothold in Midland, and it would keep me in the community banking space.
Wonderful. And part of community banking, and certainly a hallmark for Isabella Bank, is your support of small businesses. And certainly, I would say, a good portion of our small business clients, when I ask them, is there a lender that you're working with, will cite Isabella Bank. So I'd love to know kind of how community banking and small business kind of go hand in hand.
So I think that, when you think about small business, a lot of times there's nothing small about small business. Those are closely held family businesses that are working very hard to continue to grow and develop, provide opportunities for their employees, for their families, and continue to grow. And so there's a natural fit with community banking. It's a family. You're going to work with someone that's not just processing a transaction. You're working with somebody that wants to sit down and talk with you, understand what your goals and visions are, and then be a vehicle to help you reach your goals and vision, versus just being a transaction and then moving on to the next customer. So, that close relationship and being interested in the other person's success and putting them in a path to be successful is one reason why small businesses and community banks work well together. The other aspect of it is giving back to the community. I think a lot of customers, and I know I find it very appealing, that when you go to a grocery store, you're going out to dinner, you're crossing paths, you're out volunteering with different organizations, you're crossing paths. So you're active and engaged in your community together.
Sure, sure. So some of our smallest businesses that I know you, or Isabella Bank at least, has an affinity for, are those that start at our farmers market. And Isabella Bank is our market bank. So absolutely a huge thank you for supporting the market in that way. And kind of a cool fun fact that maybe some of our viewers don't know about?
Yeah, we're fortunate to have an opportunity to to work with the farmers market. It gives us a chance to connect with new business owners. It gives us a chance to connect to market goers, and again, just provide an additional resource to the community to help where there's some additional support's needed.
Sure, sure. And certainly our smaller agriculture businesses are some of our lesser known unless they are at the market. So appreciate that visibility and your willingness to connect and support in that way. Um, So let's shift a little bit. One of the things we talk a lot about in Midland, especially with our young professionals or those of us kind of earlier, I guess I shouldn't say those of us anymore, those earlier in our career and kind of mapping out and appreciating the accessibility of leadership in our community. And, I don't want to necessarily say following in the footsteps, but learning from the wisdom and knowledge of folks who have worked in our community for a while and worked in leadership for a while. And certainly in many of your roles, you've taken on that leadership. Um, so, what's an unanticipated challenge? Something maybe you didn't see coming that forced you to level up or learn something new or tackle a challenge in a way maybe you wouldn't have thought you did.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I think there's always things that come at you that are unanticipated. I think that, when you're going through your day, that if everything is comfortable for you, then you're not being exposed to enough, and life's a little too easy. I think that every day I walk into the office, I have no idea. I have my agenda of what I'm going to do and accomplish, but there's so many unexpected things that come through that, and I think that that allows for the most growth, though, as well. Your exposure to different situations, different experiences, and having a curveball thrown at you allows you to, fail forward, or make good decisions and move things forward. But at the end of the day, it gives you the opportunity to continue to grow and develop.
Completely. I appreciate that. So, on our leadership journeys, we're always looking for different experiences to fail forward or different resources to grow, something to learn from. And so we've heard a little bit of a mix through this series of, is there a podcast book, speaker that you like to listen to and kind of help you in your growth? Or is it local mentors or kind of maybe what's a great resource that you have leaned on in that journey?
So the resources I've used over the years have changed a little bit. So I've always looked for a mentor. I've looked for somebody outside of the company, having a community leader. And sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you want a formal mentorship, sometimes you don't. And so, having multiple people to look at and then emulate, or, take certain traits and then try to emulate them yourself. But over time, that changes as well. So sometimes you're reading books, sometimes you're listening. And so, I don't have a go-to podcast. I do a lot of reading, and there's no earth-shattering book that's out there that tells you how to do it. It's just a lot of little things, and that's probably one of the best books I've read. And I can't remember the title, but it talks about incrementalism and breaking things down into small pieces that, it helps that you're not overwhelmed with that you just handle a small piece at a time, and then it allows you to move forward. And then there's other books that I like to read that talk about leadership, servant leadership, great. What I love college football, so I like Bo Schembechler. I like Mike Krzyzewski. People who have been successful coaches that, you try to get a gleamer of what's going on in their world and how they're leading their teams.
Sure.
And can you emulate those things?
Sure, I appreciate that. So, if you had to sum it up, um, what's next for Isabella Bank?
So what's next for Isabella Bank? So we are continuing to grow. We want to continue to grow. Um, there's uh, there's changing dynamics in our community, and that's still a carryover of 2019 when the big merger in the banking industry happened within the Midland community. So people don't change readily. It takes time. and they have to have a reason to change. It's uncomfortable, and so just being out there, being engaged, being connected, and when the time comes, meeting with those folks that want to make a change, and then having Isabella Bank be there for them, and with that, continuing to be involved and engaged within the community, doing our part or our role to be a good community citizen and just remain active and engaged with our community.
I appreciate that. And, truly from me to you, I see you everywhere in your servant leadership and supporting the community. So thank you very much for just being a great citizen and great leader and volunteer in Midland. And really appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, thank you very much.